Thank you. Good morning. Good morning. Well, this is an exciting day for us, and I wanted the opportunity to open up this conference because it has great promise for one of the most pressing challenges that we're facing right now in the state of New York. And I want to welcome you all here today. I want to welcome the officials of the MTA, especially Joe Loda and Ronnie Haycom. Let's give them a round of applause. We have a number of state and local elected officials who are here today, and I thank them for that. We have members of our Genius panel. You had to be a genius to be on the Genius panel, so they really are extraordinary. And we have participants literally from around the world today. We have people who have traveled from transit systems in Paris, London, Istanbul, Tokyo, Hong Kong, Beijing, Singapore, Toronto, Zurich, and Copenhagen. So this is quite the international gathering, and we thank you very much for taking the time to be here, and we think it's going to be time well spent. But let's give them a round of applause for coming from around the world. New York State has a long tradition of pooling international ideas. In truth, that's what makes New York State New York State. It is our diversity. It is our openness. It is that we bring people and we welcome people from all over the world. And that gives us a base of talent that no other place has. And now we're reaching across the globe for the best strategies and technologies to use here in New York. We understand that there is a world of ideas out there when it comes to transit systems and these issues, and we want to hear them. Indeed, we need to hear them. You have come to help New York with one of the biggest and most pressing challenges that we face, to rapidly and efficiently develop solutions for the problems now facing our transit system. The importance of the MTA, the Metropolitan Transportation Authority, cannot be overstated. It is the system that undergirds the entire economy of the state of New York. It is the circulatory system to our state. It is what the arteries and veins are to the human body. For those who are unfamiliar with it, the MTA serves the New York City's 5 boroughs and the 7 surrounding suburban communities. Metro North, the nation's 3rd largest passenger railroad, serves commuters from the northern suburbs, Westchester, Rockland, Orange, Putnam, and Dutchess counties. Roughly 305,000 people travel Metro North's 775 miles into the Grand Central Terminal. The Long Island Railroad serves, as the name suggests, Long Island from points east, over 700 miles of track, just the Long Island Railroad, extending from the east end of Long Island. The Long Island Railroad carries 354,000 people, making it the busiest passenger rail line in the nation. The New York City subway system serves roughly 6 million riders every day. Altogether, the 2 commuter rail lines, the subway system, and the MTA buses, roughly 9 million people carried on a typical workday. That's 1/3 of the nation's entire mass transit capacity. The value of the MTA's assets is $1 trillion. The operating budget is $15 billion a year. The history is also telling. The first subway line opened in 1904 when the city's population was 1.2 million people. As the subway lines fanned out across Manhattan and into the outer boroughs, the city's population doubled to 2.4 million by 1930. When we built the subways out to the outer boroughs, what they call the outer boroughs, there are no inner boroughs. There are just outer boroughs: Queens, Brooklyn, Bronx, Staten Island. But when we built the subways out to the Bronx, they were essentially rural areas. 25 years after the arrival of the subway, the population had skyrocketed in the Bronx from 200,000 to 1.2 million people. Today, New York is the capital of finance, business, the arts, fashion, entertainment, and culture. And it just could not happen without the MTA. But we are now beginning to see what happens when mass transit systems break down. We have a painful precursor, a series of breakdowns with Amtrak at Pennsylvania Station. Now, Pennsylvania Station, more than 600,000 people go through Pennsylvania Station every day. More people than the number of people who go through LaGuardia Airport, Kennedy Airport, and Newark Airport combined go through Pennsylvania Station. We have chronic problems at Penn Station. This morning, again, a train was stuck on an Amtrak track going into Penn Station because of a power failure. Amtrak now says they need 8 weeks of emergency repairs at Penn Station, where they literally have to close down the tracks. When you close down the tracks, there's a series of dominoes that fall that really puts the entire system near collapse. We're preparing to offset the delays from losing those 8 tracks, but we have ferries, we have express buses, we're running alternative trains to alternative locations. It's going to be like that movie, Planes, Trains, and Automobiles. And we're preparing for what we call a summer of hell. But we understand what happens when a system collapses. And we want to make sure that nothing like what's happening at Amtrak and Penn ever happens again. Now, the transit experts in the room will say, well, you know, the system was actually worse in the 70s and the 80s. And the subway system was worse in the 70s and the 80s. It was a symbol of urban decline, graffiti on the trains, crime in the subway system. That's all true. But it's also true that the current state of decline is wholly unacceptable. And we're going to do something, and we're going to do something about it now. We know the system is decaying, and we know the system is decaying rapidly. I think of it as a heart attack. It happens all of a sudden. And the temptation is to say, well, something must have just caused it. No, a lifetime caused it. Bad habits caused it. Lack of exercise caused it. Smoking caused it. Cholesterol caused it. This has been caused over decades. We understand that. But the delays are maddening New Yorkers. They're infuriated by a lack of communication, unreliability, and now accidents. Just 3 days ago, we literally had a train come off the tracks. It's the perfect metaphor for the dysfunction of the entire system. The derailment of the A train injured 12 people, thankfully none of them seriously. The New York City subway system is the most problematic component of the MTA system. We know the underlying causes of the problem. We know that decades of underinvestment, deferred maintenance, and deferred modernization have caused the problem. We know this is now compounded with a surging ridership, more volume than the system was ever designed to hold. Daily ridership has skyrocketed from 4 million in the 90s to about 6 million today. When the system first opened, it carried 137 million riders. Today, ridership is 1.7 billion annually. So, change and improvement must come, and it must come now. New Yorkers are not by their nature a patient people, and they shouldn't be, especially when it comes to this. And that's why you are here. We need ideas outside the box, because frankly, the box is broken. Standard practices have failed us. We need a new approach, a new culture, new methods to quickly and dramatically make progress. You'll hear about needs for progress in 4 areas. Number 1, we need an updated fleet of new subway cars and a better system to overhaul and fix and maintain the existing cars. Number 2, we have a signal system that is in desperate need of upgrade and replacement. Number 3, we have an outdated communication system to inform riders of operating conditions. And number 4, we have a power grid that fails all too often. Our fleet of 6,400 cars reflects the historic lack of investment in the subway system. Subway cars are designed to be on the tracks for 40 years. Today, we have more than 700 cars that have passed their expiration date. The oldest subway cars are 52 years old. They literally should be in a museum. And the MTA's new project capacity is frankly deplorable. The MTA will tell you today it takes 5 years to get a new car. That is just ridiculous. I could build a car in 5 years. And there's no reason to spend more per new car than other transit systems around the world. We need new cars, and we have months, not years, to get them. If the MTA's current vendors can't provide them in the time frame we need, then the MTA should find new vendors. It's that simple. Our signal system must be replaced. Much of our signal system was installed prior to 1937. Roughly 30% was installed prior to 1965 and hasn't been upgraded. Today, our transit system contains 80-year-old equipment in places. The technology was first designed in the late 19th century. The MTA's replacement timetable currently, 7 to 10 years per line. In total for the system, 40 to 50 years. 40 to 50 years. You have countries that are building entire subway systems in a matter of years. It cannot take 40 years to put in a signal system. The lack of communication that riders deal with is infuriating. Riders tweet all day long information about trains and delays, but the MTA can't manage to communicate with the riders. They tweet nasty things about me all day, the riders, but we can't figure out a way to communicate with them. Virtually every area of life has been revolutionized by communication, except in the MTA subway systems. The MTA can no longer live in the past. As a matter of basic communication and customer convenience, we need a system with Wi-Fi connectivity in the subways, and we need it fast. The Wi-Fi will not just be a customer convenience. It could also be the means for a new signal system. Specifically, from our side, we need to take 3 steps to make change a reality: the right leadership, the right plan, and the necessary resources. We recently named Joseph Loda chairman of the MTA. Joe Loda I've known for years. He's worked in government before. He ran the MTA at some of his darkest days, which was right after Hurricane Sandy. I literally ran into Joe in the middle of the night, in the middle of the hurricane. We were the only 2 people left in downtown Manhattan. And I ran into him at the foot of the Brooklyn Battery Tunnel as it was being filled by the floods of Hurricane Sandy. And he oversaw the reconstruction during that very tough time. And he's come back to oversee the transformation now. Let's give him a round of applause, Joseph Loda. We have Ronnie Hakam, who's come from New Jersey Transit and is a great asset to the MTA, and we thank her, and she's with us today. Ronnie Hakam. We have Phil Eng, who came from the State Department of Transportation. Phil was in charge of all critical projects, bridges, airports, et cetera, and getting them done quickly. All the tough projects we gave to Phil, and he's now at the MTA. Let's give him a round of applause. And in charge of new development, we brought in Jano Lieber, who's a government pro, but also a private sector pro. He was most recently with Silverstein Properties, and he knows how to get big jobs done quickly. Jano Lieber, welcome. That's the leadership. As far as the plan is concerned, that's why you are here, because we need new ideas and new approaches and new products, new technology, and we are open to it. In the meantime, today I'm asking Joe Loader to do a reorganization plan for the MTA in 30 days. Start with a blank piece of paper. There are no givens. There are no sacred cows. Design an organization that performs the function rather than the organization that exists today, which is just a long-standing bureaucracy that has evolved over time. Literally, there are no sacred cows. I want Mr. Loader just to design the best organization to get the job done, period. Second, we should have a review of the capital plan, the cars, the physical equipment. I would ask Mr. Loader to get that done in 60 days. Very simple. What do we need? How do we get it? And how much will it cost? And how do we expedite the entire process? Today, to begin the expedition of the process, I'm going to sign an executive order declaring a state of emergency when it comes to the MTA, which will allow us to expedite many of the normal government processes. One of the processes we're going to expedite is the MTA procurement process. I'll ask the Controller and the Attorney General for a special team to expedite the process, but it will no longer be a tortured exercise to do business with the MTA. We want to do business, we need to do business, and we will do it quickly. It's a little sad that that was an applause line, but reality can hurt, huh? The power failures that have been going on, that have been sporadic and unpredictable, are becoming more and more frequent. Right now, it's a finger-pointing game between Con Edison and the MTA. Con Edison brings in the power, the MTA distributes the power, and when there's a power outage, both say it's the problem of the other. The Con Edison is regulated by the state, an organization called the Public Service Commission. I am going to charge today that the PSC has a joint review of the system by Con Ed and MTA, identify the equipment, identify the responsibility, identify the state of repair, and get that done in 90 days. If there's a power outage and if Con Ed is responsible, they are going to be fined heavily for the delays that they've been causing New Yorkers, and we're going to do that immediately. In terms of resources, and it is about the resources. When they say it's not about the money, that normally means it's about the money. And there's no doubt that to do what we need to do, we're going to need more resources. Last year, the state approved the largest capital plan in the history of the state of New York. The Mta Capital Plan approved by the state was 4 times larger than any plan approved in 50 years. So I believe the state has stepped up to the plate. But it's still not enough, and we still need a long-term identifiable funding stream. I've asked local governments to step up and contribute more, and thus far they haven't. The legislature has not identified a new funding stream thus far, but we must. New York State, we will lead by example. There's an old expression that the Brits actually take credit for. I think it was from another queen. It was from Queens County. put your money where your mouth is. And today, New York State is going to put its money where its mouth is, and we're going to commit to an additional $1 billion in the capital plan so the MTA has the resources they need to get this done. It's important to point out that we're talking about the problems of the MTA, but let's remember the context. The MTA every day does a Herculean task of moving 9 million people. 72,000 employees work day in and day out, sometimes in inclement weather, dangerous conditions, to make this state move. And they do an extraordinary job, 6,000 trains, 5,700 buses. And the employees, both management and labor of the MTA, are as frustrated with these challenges as the riders are. So making these improvements will be good news for all. Bottom line for you, we need new ideas. How do you build cars faster than 5 years? How do you overhaul cars, refinish cars faster than what we're doing and cheaper than what we're doing? How do you wire the subway system? How do you get connectivity into the subway system? And there have to be better ways to do this. It cannot be about 5 years and 10 years. In an age where you're building drones and autonomous vehicles, it can't be 40 years to design and install a signal system for a subway system. All it means to me is the thinking and the creativity that is doing the new technology and the new apps and the new drones and the new autonomous vehicles is not being applied to the nation's transportation system. We have to get that thinking and that creativity and apply it to this problem. And that's what this conference is. And there's an opportunity for you. This is New York. This is the world stage. We want to do this. We want to do this quickly. You have an idea, we employ it or deploy it in New York, it will be on display for the world. We want to do this, we need to do this, we will do this, and we will get this done quickly. Remember who we are as New Yorkers, and remember our DNA. We are all about building. We are all about construction. You look around you. This entire environment is a built environment. This is a very small island that is all built with the tallest buildings in the world, with the most advanced, sophisticated underground construction in the world. So we have built this place, and we carry that tradition with us, and we are expanding on that tradition. We started with building the Brooklyn Bridge because they said they couldn't do it, and when you tell us you can't do it, it's impossible, that just gets us interested. And our whole tradition has gone from there. George Washington Bridge, Verrazano Bridge, longest, deepest tunnels, tallest buildings, Empire State Building, World Trade Center, Freedom Tower. It's what we're doing today. The largest infrastructure program in the United States of America, right here, $100 billion. New airport in Rochester and Syracuse and Plattsburgh and Elmira. First brand new airport in the nation in 25 years at LaGuardia Airport. Largest infrastructure project in the United States of America, Tappan Zee Bridge, $5 billion being built right now. New train hall at Farley, $1.6 billion, closed last week and now underway. We are building a new New York, and the MTA has to be an essential part of that. And we want you to help us make that system the best system on the globe. That's what we want here, that's what we deserve here, and that is our standard. And with everything else we're doing, the new airports, the new roads, the new bridges. We need that MTA system to be the best, highest functioning in this country and on this globe. Come do something exciting with us. Let's build something that's never been built before. And let's show the world what innovation can do when it's brought to transportation. And there is no better place to do it than in New York. Thank you for being here, and God bless you.
Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome the chairman of the MTA, Joe Loda.
Good morning. It's always difficult to follow the governor when he speaks, so I'll do my very best. I want to welcome everybody this morning, and especially also, before the governor leaves, I want to thank him for everything he just announced. $1 billion more, but combined with a reduction in the amount of procurement mishigas that goes on, that too is probably worth another $1 billion. So I'm looking forward to this, and I'm sure for those of you vendors out there, rest assured, we will put together some kind of a system that will work for all of us. You know, today we're taking an important step forward to provide all New Yorkers with a transit system they deserve. The way I define it, it's a transit system that needs to be safe, it needs to be reliable, and a viable subway system. So before I begin, let me also recognize a few people who are here. Councilman Ydanis Rodriguez, who is the chair of the New York City Council Transportation Committee. Thank you, council member, for being here. Ronnie Hakem, who the governor introduced as the interim executive director of the MTA. I noticed when I came in there were numerous MTA board members. I can't see any of you with the lights that are on me, but I did see a couple of them, and I want to thank you very much. Andrew Albert I saw, as well as a couple of others, so I apologize. Rick Cotton is here. He is special counsel to the governor. Jamie Rubin is here. He's the director of operations. And my good friend Pat Foy, who is here. He is the executive director of the Port Authority of New York and New Jersey. Please give them all a round of applause. I was going to say how honored I am to have been appointed by the governor to now come back to the MTA and rejoin them as chairman of the board. I am very honored to do that. I'm a New Yorker through and through. I told some folks earlier today, one of my very first remembrances of the subway system, I think was in 1950, believe it or not, 1958. I was about 6 years old and I ran away from home. For 15 cents, I was able to get on the subway. I went about 5 or 6 different areas. And then I realized I didn't have 15 cents to get back, so I got off, went around the other side, and came back home. So I have been part of the subway system, and the subway system has been part of me for quite a long time. And I want everyone to have that same type of experience. I know the subway system was and can be the crown jewel of the city of New York. And I know from experience that the men and women who work at the MTA are some of the most dedicated, driven, and talented people in this city. I'm under no illusions, however, of the challenges that we face. Years of underinvestment, combined with an ever-growing ridership, have left the system in dire straits. New Yorkers expect better, and they are rightfully frustrated, and they are disappointed. However, I know that there is a path forward. I know that what the MTA team is capable of. The governor talked about what happened in 2012 with Superstorm Sandy. Again, he said and credited me. No credit belongs to me. The credit belongs to the men and women of the Transit Authority who made it their job with tremendous enthusiasm to be able to make sure that the subway system was back to help the people of the city of New York, and they were able to do it in 48 hours. That amount of work by the transit workers in New York City was not only exemplary, but it is an example of what we are capable of. They are the example. What they were able to do in that dark moment in this city and in this state, they were a shining beacon to show what can be done. And I look forward to working with them again to make sure it can get done. You know, with the support of Governor Cuomo and the leadership at the MTA, we're going to address all these challenges, and we're going to have to build confidence. Today's Genius Challenge marks the beginning of a long-term effort to reimagine, literally reimagine the MTA. It's a broad, and you know, it's not just the subways, as the governor talked about, it's the Long Island Railroad and Metro North, as well as the bridges and tunnels. We're going to start, however, with the subway system. You know, it's going to be a long-term effort to reimagine the system. It's a broad call for ideas that reflects a completely no-limits approach and is a testament to our commitment to overhaul the authority and the agency and in rebuilding our subway system. Look, the larger effort will impact everything we do, and it's going to be driven by 4 interrelated priorities. First, we have to invest in our people. We have to invest in the personnel. The MTA, I believe, based on what I've seen, has some of the most talented transit specialists in the country and an unparalleled workforce that is committed to its mission and is dedicated to the people of this city. We have to ensure that we continue to attract skilled workers and that we give these men and women the tools necessary and the training and the retraining that they need to keep this city and our economy on the move. Second, we need to implement and execute processes that work. Just because something is done a certain way and it's always been done that way before and it's worked in the past doesn't mean that it's the solution for right now. Last night, I ripped my office at home apart looking for something that I gave everybody on my staff when I became deputy mayor in 1998. And it was a button that I finally found, and anybody wants to come home with me tonight to put my office back together again, I appreciate it. But it was a button I gave everybody. And it says, but we've always done it this way before. No, that is not going to be part of our lexicon. I don't want to hear it. What I want to hear are new ideas. As the governor mentioned, out-of-the-box ideas. Let's live outside the box. Let's come up with as many ideas as we possibly can. Processes that we have now are slow and inefficient. You know, the governor talked about the system as a circulatory system. It kind of, during the wooing days of for this job, that's what I told him. It's the circulatory system. But given, you know, where I come from and other parts, the system itself can be sclerotic. It's got plaque. We need to find ways to fix it and get that circulatory system running again. You know, we need to perform, from how we perform track maintenance, to how we repair our subway cars, to how we motivate our employees, to how we communicate with our employees as well as with our customers. And by the way, I'm going to say this once, you'll never hear me say the word again. We don't have riders. We have customers. And the customers are always right. We need to listen to them, and we need to understand how important they are. They are why the MTA exists every day, to allow them to go to work, to allow them to go to school, to go to wherever they need to go, and none of them need to go there and worry on whether or not they're going to get there on time. That's my sole commitment to you as we go forward. The third thing we need to do, as I talked a little bit about, we need to improve all the channels of communication between the MTA and all of our customers. And, you know, it's been a perennial challenge. You know, I mentioned, you know, what I did in the late 1950s. You know, when I used to hear announcements on the old subway, I thought they were talking in a foreign language. I had no idea what they were talking about. But it's gotten a little better, and it took a long time. We can now hear it, but we've got to go a lot further. We've got to find better ways to communicate. We've got to use every form of modern technology. Let's lead the technology. Let's find interactive ways to communicate with our customers, to communicate with our cars, to communicate overall in what we do. We've got to do a better job of leveraging technology and new mediums of communication to reach all of our customers. which leads me to the fourth priority, which we have to find ways to engage and implement new technology. Governor spoke about that extremely eloquently. Today, the MTA runs, people say, on a 20th century system in the 21st century. Think about it. The system opened in 1904. It was designed in the 19th century. For the most part, it's still running on that concept of what was developed by folks in the late 1800s. And that's problematic in the 21st century. We've got to get there. New technologies can help us improve safety, reliability, and our capacity across all of the system. And we need to look at all of the technologies that are used all throughout the world. One of the things that I've known about New York is the amount of pride we have in saying that we've created this and we've done this for the first time. Now is the time to look to the rest of the world, because I'm one of those people who absolutely believes we are the capital of the world. That doesn't mean we have to develop everything here, but we've got to take the best ideas and the brightest people that we find all the way throughout the world, the geniuses, as the governor calls you, to be able to take your ideas and bring them here, because the people deserve that. And for too long, we've been focused on maintaining yesterday's infrastructure without looking to the future. We need to create the solutions of tomorrow. We have the vision and the momentum. It's starting today, and I'm totally committed to putting together the plan that the governor described, the 30-day plan, the 60-day plan. We've already started it. Ronnie and I have already started it. Its name is the Subway Recovery and Transformation Plan. We will present that to the governor and to the public. The processes that we'll look at, we're going to take an introspective look at ourselves, as the governor asked. And so today, we're going to do a top-to-bottom audit or an analysis of the entire organization in the next 30 days. This review will help us identify the strategy to overhaul the system and move forward to the 21st century. And building on this effort, we're going to come up with a long-term plan, a detailed long-term plan to overhaul the organizational structure and modernize the entire subway system. Working in parallel track with what we learned today during the Genius Conference, we're going to be able, and listening to all of our stakeholders, to design that path forward. And as New Yorkers, we can't wait. Every day that goes by brings new delays, like the governor described what happened this morning, new frustrations, and it hurts our economy. This system is too important for the economic engine of the city of New York and the metropolitan region for us to stall any longer. The New York City metropolitan area actually represents almost 20% of the GDP of the United States of America. We've got to keep it going. It is critical, not just for us here in New York, but critical for the entire country. So we're going to present this plan within 60 days. And let me be clear, everything is on the table. No sacred cows. We're going to listen very closely today. No idea is too crazy. No idea is too ambitious. We're going to explore every possible avenue. It's time to think outside the box. It's time to start living outside the box. And at every step of the way, we're going to be transparent. We're going to make this known as we go forward, what's going on and what information is there. The people deserve that. And we're going to be accountable to the people of the city and the state of New York. We cannot achieve our mission without the trust of our customers and the confidence of our customers. So moving forward, we will communicate our plans and we will show the progress that we're showing to transform the MTA. So I want to thank you again for joining us in this endeavor. I look forward to this entire conference today, working together to build a new MTA. I'll end with what I started with. New Yorkers deserve a safe, reliable, and viable subway system. That is our goal. That is our charge. That is what we must do. Thank you very much.
Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome the Interim Executive Director of the MTA, Ronnie Hakem.
Thank you. Well, Governor Cuomo has demonstrated tremendous leadership in transportation, and his commitment further emphasizes the importance of the MTA to the region and New York State and city. Chairman Lota has just laid out a framework for transformation that means it's going to be exciting to be part of the MTA going forward. We are committed to making a difference, and that has led us here today. So give me an opportunity to explain the challenge and explain some of the historical context by which led us here today. Here in New York, we have a legacy of building not for today, but in fact for what we can become. This is a historical photo of Queens. This was the example of you build it and they come. The New York City subway system is one of our greatest achievements. The first subway, and you heard it mentioned earlier, opened in 1904, running from City Hall up to 145th Street. By 1905, the annual ridership in the system was 137 million customers. Over the next few decades, 3 separate privately owned companies had subway lines that opened in New York, what we refer to as the old BMT, the IRT, and the IND. Now, the subway at that time was a tremendous success. But by the early 1940s, the 3 private companies could no longer care and finance those subway systems. So what happened? The subway lines were merged, and they were taken over by the city of New York. Then, in the light of broader post-World War II trends, that is suburbanization, the rise in private car ownership, and disinvestment, chronic disinvestment in our cities, led to the fading of what was the magnificence of the subway system. In 1965, New York State stepped in and formed what would become the MTA, and so to save the subway system and to grow the regional economy. There were 2 fundamental challenges. The first, it was funded year to year, which limited the ability to invest long-term in the system. The second, years of neglect. Years of neglect had left the subway in a very fragile state. And it was dangerous. 1981, the year I came back to the city and rode the subway every day from Queens to my job in Midtown. There were 5,700 track fires. There were 21 collisions and derailments in that 12-month time period, and there were over 4,900 robberies. You never rode the train alone. And then there was the graffiti. And there was more graffiti, lots of it. The system was at a breaking point then. New York State recognized that the MTA needed the ability to plan and invest in a capital program and address those decades of neglect. And so in 1982, the state initiated the first MTA capital program. And we went to work. We started fixing much of the core operating infrastructure that hadn't been touched and maintained effectively over 70 years. And it worked. People started using the subway again. I think that's me in the back. And they came in droves. The MTA was, in fact, fulfilling its mission. New York City and the metropolitan region grew more than 30% over the next several decades. Today, the governor and the chairman noted, the MTA provides over 8.7 million rides each day across our subway, our buses, our commuter rail systems, and the majority of those rides are on the New York City subway system. Let's look at some numbers. Our average weekday ridership is over 5.6 million people, and we have many 6 million rider days. Our annual ridership is over 1.7 billion. We have 472 stations in the subway system. We have 665 miles of track in revenue service and more track in our yards and our shops and our maintenance facilities. Of course, we run underground, but we also run elevated above ground. New York City has the second most track miles in the world and the most stations in the world. We are also one of 2 of the world's major cities that operates 24/7, 365. 71% of all transit rides in the United States of America occur right here on the New York City subway system. We have more trips than the next 10 systems combined. We make 4 times as many trips as the domestic airline system in our country. And one of our busiest corridors, the Lexington Avenue line, that ridership alone, on that one line, is greater than the entire DC Metro and Chicago systems combined. We operate 2 divisions of our subway system, and our track designs vary slightly between those 2 divisions, requiring different types of cars and equipment. On the A division, which is the former IRT that I spoke about earlier, our numbered lines, those cars are 50 feet long and 9 feet wide. And those stations and train sets are typically 500 feet long. And the A division trains are interoperable within the A division lines. The B division, which is the combination of the old BMT and the IND, are cars that are generally 60 and 75 feet long and 10 feet wide, different size. The stations and trains are typically 600 feet long. And the B division trains are also interoperable on those B division lines. The MTA has resurrected subway ridership in New York State. But as has been noted, we are still using a system that hasn't undergone a full, real modernization in over a century. Today, our system includes 80-year-old signal equipment and interlockings to manage train movement. This is at West 4th Street. It's in use today. Our 52-year-old subway cars are some of the oldest in the world. And 70-year-old cloth-covered cables continue to be relied on. As a result, what happens? Old equipment, old components, there are failures, and they can lead to frustrating, systematic disruptions and delays. Our system, therefore, is again at a breaking point. We are aggressively combating a New York transit crisis. What are we doing right now? We're implementing a preventive maintenance program, but our immediate future, which leads us here today, is to increase our capacity and the reliability of the subway system. Right now, this spring, we launched a 5-point improvement plan. We're going to increase our subway car fleet. We're going to improve our car maintenance procedures. We're going to enhance our tracks and our signals. We're going to mitigate delays associated with having to deal with sick customers or law enforcement activity. We're streamlining how customers move on and off trains. And we're going to target our system bottlenecks because we know where they are. Additionally, moments ago, Governor Cuomo and Chairman Lota announced additional emergency actions to support a review and enhancement of our subway system. So that's our immediate future. We're here today to figure this out together. How are we going to increase the system's capacity and reliability? In order to increase that capacity in the near term, just building out new tracks is not a viable option. Takes too long. We have to do more with what we have. That means running more trains closer together and safely. To run trains closer, we need a new signaling system. Our existing system, designed over 100 years ago, is at max capacity and, as we know, breaks down. But that's only part of the equation. The new signaling system needs to interface with a modern fleet of cars that can read and process those signals effectively. And all this needs to be transmitted through connectivity in a modern communications network. So it all fits together. The signal system, the subway cars, and the communications system. It's one ecosystem that will transform the New York City subway system. And we're looking for best-in-class international solutions in each of these 3 categories. That's our challenge. First, the signal system. We need to rapidly deploy a new system that can safely reduce the spacing between cars, and so we can increase the throughput and the capacity of the system. On the subway car front, We have to rapidly deploy better subway cars in our system. We think the primary focus at this point is to be able to effectively refurbish our entire fleet and improve the car's performance and reliability. And on communications, we know we need to modernize, and we need modern communications technology throughout the entirety of the network to facilitate the signaling system and to enhance our communications with our customers. These are the challenges that we are asking for your assistance. We think that with your help, we can meet these three challenges. That is the MTA Genius Transit Challenge. Thank you.
Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome back Joe Loda and our panel of international metro experts.
Thank you. Mr. Ogata, how are you? How are you, Andy? How are you? Catherine, good to see you again. How are you? Good morning. Our opening panel discussion this morning is with members of the international transit community. So let me introduce them very, very quickly and let them get to their presentations. And then we're going to open it up and we're going to have a discussion. Andy Byford, who is to my right, your left, he's the CEO of the Toronto Transit Commission. Immediately adjacent to him is Catherine Chaudon. Catherine is CEO of the Paris Transit's RATP, American Development Company. Next to Catherine is Guido Spuch, if I hope I got that right, the pronunciation. He is the CEO of the Zurich Public Transportation Company. To my left is Mr. Masaki Ogata. He is the Vice Chairman of the East Japan Railway Company, also known for many of us in the business as JR East. Next to him as a presenter is Mr. Masayo Tomoyako. He is, in fact, Senior Managing Director and Executive Board Member of the Tokyo Metro System. So with that, I think it's more important not to listen to me anymore, but to listen to them. Andy, you're up.
Okay, good morning, everyone. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Good morning, New Yorkers. It's a pleasure for me to be here on behalf of the Toronto Transit Commission. It's not often that you get called a genius. I'm more used to being called a veteran now, which I think is slightly less flattering. But let me just tell you very briefly, Toronto Transit Commission, just up north in Canada. It's the largest transit system in Canada, the third largest transit system in North America. We have 5 modes. We carry 1.8 million customers a day, around 540 million riders per annum. And I think the reason, Mr. Chairman, is why you asked us, and we appreciate being asked for our counsel, is because there's a lot of parallels between Toronto and New York, both in terms of the challenges and in terms of the nature of the operation that we have and the equipment that we used. So if I might go to the next slide. So this is what I want to talk about, and this was alluded to earlier on by Ronnie, that you have to have a coordinated plan. That plan has to pull together all of the relevant parts of the challenge. So this has certainly been the case in Toronto. We have put together a program that does precisely that. So to the next. So here we go. So the TTC was founded in 1921. It was, thank you, the subway, though, was built in 1954. And for a long time, the TTC was seen really as a beacon for North America. It was seen as a world-class system and very well designed. And that, I think, stands to this day, except very similar to what has happened here in New York. There were decades of underinvestment, decades of deferred maintenance, and decades of lack of political interest, really, in the TTC. And it breaks my heart to see that's a slow but inevitable decline because of those factors. And we similarly have faced surging ridership. In my time at the TTC, which is just over 5 years now, we've gone from 500 million rides to 540 million rides. So effectively, we're triple whammied between an aging infrastructure, a surging ridership, and very limited funding. So these are all close parallels with what's happening here. The signaling system dates back to 1954. It's safe, but it's increasingly unreliable. And the budget to put that right has until recently been extremely constrained. That plus the fact that we do need to expand our system, we need to add more capacity, that's effectively what brought me to the TTC. I saw a golden opportunity to turn that system around. And building on the success and the good work of my predecessors, it seemed to me we needed to do three things. We needed to modernize the infrastructure, clearly. We needed to transform our processes, which were somewhat steam-driven, very bureaucratic. And above all, we needed to transform the culture by bringing in the right people in the right skill sets and the right jobs to truly pull together. And what that resulted in was this, which is a corporate plan that we have been executing between 2013 and 2017. And I said to my team at the time, if we pull together and we up our game and we prosecute this plan, we can and we will get the TTC back to being #1 in North America. So just moving on. So what have we actually been doing? Our corporate plan set out a bold vision, which was a transit system that makes Toronto proud. And it has a number of key elements. Number one, absolutely do not lose sight of state of good repair. Everyone wants to build shiny new extensions and cut ribbons, but you've got to stick to the knitting and you must stick to the day job, or that's what gets you into trouble. So we put a lot of effort into a state of good repair, not least in modernizing our fleet, and more on that in a second. We've also been upgrading our signaling, so we are moving to a fully integrated communications-based train control that will allow us to move more trains safely closer together, moving from what's called fixed block to moving block signaling. We've really put great emphasis into bringing the employees with us, and I'll say some more about that. And we have also made a great point of ensuring the public know what we're doing, because you must get the public on side, because there's no gain without pain. And what I said when I turned up 5 years ago, I just need two things. It's really simple, but it needs to be said here. I needed money, kind of obvious, but I just needed time. And Joe, you and Ronnie, you need time and space to do what needs to be done. So in terms of other specifics, things that you should definitely pay great attention to is, and I heard what the governor said about new signaling, keep it simple. Use proven designs. There's lots of good systems out there. So certainly for our existing rolling stock, we impress on our suppliers. Don't go around inventing the wheels. Do not nickel and dime us by putting cheap parts onto a new train when you know very well that the equipment that you've used for decades is actually proven. And we are also moving to a proactive maintenance regime, fix before fail rather than fix after fail. So it's very much a back to basics approach. In terms of the fleet, I'm pleased to see that New York is considering, in fact actively pursuing, through gangway trains. We have them on our Line 1 in Toronto, which are what's called Toronto Rockets, Bombardier trains, that you can walk all the way through. You get something like 10% additional capacity just by not having individual cars. There's always a debate about fixed formation, friend or foe. The only downside is you can't easily break up the unit, but as long as the trains are reliable, and ours now are, they're on an Asian standard of reliability, then you will certainly benefit from having that additional space. But we also bought trains with a view to the signaling system. Don't look at things in isolation. We went out and bought trains that were ATC compatible. In other words, they're ready for the new signaling. And they feature a lot of good customer facilities on board as well. So you're trying to get all three of those elements right. In terms of signaling, I mentioned this earlier. One of the issues I had to face when I arrived at the TTC was we had a somewhat Byzantine set of contracts that were set up in order to re-signal our busiest line, line 1. There were far too many contractors involved. There were far too many interfaces. I felt that this was basically we were planning to fail. It was overly complex, and there were too many suppliers. So we have simplified our approach to the re-signaling, and this is what's called brownfield re-signaling. It's not easy. I'd love to have the luxury of shutting a line in order to do it. I don't have that luxury. I don't even, Mr. Chairman, have the luxury of parallel expresses and locals. So we have to do it in closures, and we have to do some of the work on night. But we simplified our process, and working with our supplier, Alstom, we will go live with phase 1 of ATC on a brownfield railway, on time, on budget, this fall. And the second phase of that will come when we open our new subway extension in December. So again, make sure that things are simplified, keep it nice and simple, but again, use proven products. We are buying a signaling system that we know works. Because as Ronnie said, it's a system. You have to get all things right. So you look at how the line side, the wayside network needs to be modernized, but you don't do that in isolation. We are in parallel further integrating our command center. We are upgrading our radio system so that all the pieces of this jigsaw are modernized. And while we're at it, we're taking the opportunity to install Wi-Fi throughout our system, and that is practically complete, and that will be a good customer benefit. In parallel, I mentioned that I'd come back to change management. You've got to bring the employees with you. The employees have a lot of good ideas. So we have deliberately reorganized the company. The company is built, and this plan is built around the customer. And everything our plan puts the customer effectively at the center of everything that we do. So we reorganized the company to be a continuous improvement model, and we have gone out deliberately to put the right people with the right skill sets in the right jobs. So that you do get that sweet spot of quality people being promoted from within, but where you need to, go out and target additional resource to come in to help you. And again, it's about getting the basics right. Keep the employees on side. We have invested in a change management team so that we can make these big game changers work and make them embed. Because any management team has failed if when that team moves on, you slide back to where you were. It's all about sustainable embedded change. Another key point on my penultimate slide is that you have to manage public expectations. These things are not easy. So what we have been doing in Toronto is a big push to make sure that we keep our stakeholders informed about what we're doing and our customers informed about what we're doing. I write a piece in a weekly newspaper every week, plain English, to say what we're doing and why we've done it. And every week after a subway closure, of which there are many, we make sure the public see and we share with the public exactly what we achieved, literally how many miles of track that we've upgraded or how many pieces of equipment that we've put in. And we make sure that we excel at providing quality travel alternatives so that the bus shuttles run positively. So the main thing I have said to my customers is, I know you don't like shuttles. I know it's inconvenient, but it will be worth it. You've just got to bear with us. You cannot just click your fingers and expect it to change without pain. So my closing comment, Mr. Chairman, would be you're doing the right things. What you need is the right people in the right job with the right plan. It sounds like that you have got that. You need strong leadership. What we have delivered at Toronto, and the job isn't finished. I'm not saying it's yet finished, but with the time and the money, and it's interesting that the governor quoted an English expression, put your money where your mouth is. I'd agree with that. In Toronto, from a very difficult position 5 years ago, we are now achieving record customer satisfaction. We have 5 mega projects coming together at once. We delivered a 44% reduction, 21% reduction in delay minutes and incidents concurrently. And that challenge I set my organization 5 years ago, which is if we pull together, we can get the TTC back to being #1. Monday Monday of this week, we were just announced as the APTA Outstanding Transit of the Year. If we can do it, Mr. Chairman, you can do it. You're doing the right things.
Thank you, Andy. I have this overwhelming desire to ask Andy a whole lot of questions, but I'm going to wait till the very end. Most importantly, Catherine from Paris.
Thank you very much for your wonderful introduction. So I'm here as a CEO for RATP Dev in North America. So I'm representing RATP Group. The group is made of RATP, the mother company, which operates 14 lines in Paris, 2 commuter rail systems, 4,500 buses in Paris, and also we are operating and maintaining different type of modes, bus, trains, light rails, and commuter and metros all over the world in 15 countries. So I'm going to focus on the Paris Metro, and I think that's an interesting experience we've had. And that I'm going to share with you on the signaling and the to enable automation in Paris. So these are I'm going to focus on on the metro system in Paris. So we operate today in Paris 14 lines of metro, which, as you see, we're very close to New York City Transit, with 5.2 million. Ridership daily ridership, and we began operations, and we are the oldest continuous operation in the world because we began in 1900, just 4 years before you. So and it was in July, so we celebrate the 117 year of operations in Paris. Over 20 years ago, RATP saw the benefits of investing in new signaling technology. So everything started, in fact, with the line 14. So we have 14 lines. The most recent one was built 20 years ago, line 14. And why did we do that? So it was mainly, I mean, RATP is an innovative company. We've always been leading innovations, technical innovations, and we decided that automation would be an opportunity to improve and increase frequency and improve reliability of our systems. In fact, of course, as you have the same issues here in New York, the population is growing, and we have to face customer satisfaction and quality of the service that we provide. And we also wanted to lower operations and maintenance costs. So these are the main objectives that we leaded, but have in mind that, in fact, when we have a project, it's also other projects within the project. So you have an automated system done through CBTC and CCTV, but also it's about change management. And Andy, you talked about that. The people are in the core matters that we have to take care of. It was also, the third point was the platforms and the platform screen doors, because in order to have an automated system, you need to install doors to protect the tracks, and very, very useful for many other reasons. It's a big, very important benefit for everyone. And also the rolling stock issue, buying the right cars and also having the right signaling system. So the projects in Paris, we are today operating 2 automated lines. The oldest one was in 1998, sorry, line 14, and it was a greenfield project, and it was built driverless since the origin, with PSD, with platform screen doors, and a Siemens signaling technology. Nobody believed in that project. I mean, it was an experience. It was, and it has been a great success. Today, line 14 has 500 thousand daily ridership, and it's one of the most successful line in terms of customer satisfaction. I think we reach almost the 98% satisfaction, and of course, on-time performance is great.
98% satisfaction?
Yeah.
Wow.
So it was a great experience, and we have today 20-year experience. So on the life cycle, we have today also a very interesting experience about this line 14, and line 14 will be extended for the Greater Paris project. I will talk to you about that few slides later. Line 1 is the oldest line in Paris. 1900, it was line 1. It goes from La Défense to Château de Vincennes, from west to east part of Paris, goes through the most beautiful places in Paris for all the tourists. It's more than 750,000 passengers a day. So line 1, the decision was made to modernize this line. And modernization is not a bad word. So for the people, in terms of change management, I know the employees always, and you talked about that, nobody wants changes because it's difficult. But these changes have made a lot. We've made a lot of improvement in our organization as well, following this automation. Line 1 in 2007, since 2011, we have transformed this line 1 into an automated line. And we are operating this line as a driverless line. And we are now starting to transform line 4, which goes from north Paris to south of Paris. And it's an ongoing automation, and I will talk to you into more details about automation. What are the technical challenges? The technical challenges that we face, we had 3 goals. The first one was to maintain service during construction. So I'm focusing on line 1 because it's a brownfield project. So brownfield, you have an old system and you want to retrofit and to transform it into a brand new system, which is, it is a big challenge, to be honest, without any service disruption. That's what, and we reached this goal. The second goal was also to ensure that nothing was done to interfere with the reliability of the wayside signaling during construction. So we kept the wayside signaling, and we introduced the new signaling system on the cars. And the third challenge was to make sure that the new signaling equipment was readily accessible for emergency maintenance, since the system is driverless. I will talk to you about that because we found a solution. So the solutions that we found is what we mixed operation of driverless and conventional trains. So I remember in 2011 and even before, we could see a driverless metro and a conventional train on the same line. And you could, you didn't choose, of course, but you could take both type of operations, or both types of cars. We also decided to install signaling equipment under train seats, so for quick access. I have to go faster. We had to close stations, but we also had a big challenge on passenger information, but we had to install the platform screen doors, and we had to close station. And also we tested the new cars outside the city in order to bring them ready to be operated. And of course, I didn't talk about that more into details, but we can after. It's a change management project. So the operational takeaways, 4 years construction. We only had a 9-time work window, so 3 hours and a half a day to work, because the Paris system closed at 1 a.m., opens at 5 a.m. So we had this small window to work. And in fact, we had the capacity, and now we have the capacity to improve the headways. It's 1 minute 45 seconds before automation, and it's now 1 minute 25 seconds headways. Greater Paris project, so maybe you don't see, but you can see a little Eiffel Tower on the, so the Greater Paris project, thanks to this great experience we had on line 14 and line 1, and that we are ongoing on line 4, the main lines in Paris in terms of ridership, and the politics and the governance of the region, the Paris region, has decided to build 4 new driverless lines, more than 100 miles of new tracks, 67 stations, and it's going to open, the first opening in 2020. And it's going to be an ongoing project until 2030. But the idea is to have the capacity to have driverless metros all around Paris, so we can connect suburbs, with other suburbs. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Catherine. We're time constrained, as I'm being signaled over there. So Guido, if you could go through the presentation quickly. And I do want to come back, because I do want to open up a discussion and tell you about one of the things that I'm worried about. With all of the great things that everybody has been doing, I am absolutely worried about what I consider one of the biggest problems we have, and that is we're open 24/7, 365, and if you have no idea what it means to take something away from a New Yorker. So I want to talk to you a little bit about that pain and sacrifice.
Yes, I think we must change our slate.
Right.
The slide, it's Tokyo.
Oh, it's Tokyo. Yeah. I'm so sorry, Mr. Ogata. Thank you.
So thank you very much for your introduction. And Mr. Joe Rota.
Yep, thank you.
Actually, he is my very good friends. And I'm very happy you're back to chairman.
Thank you.
And we have been cooperating very well with the MTA. So MTA is our friends, and I'm also happy to be here to make a presentation. Time is limited, so I'm moving very quickly. And actually, we are carrying 17 million passengers a day, 17 million people a day, and this is the world's largest number. Of course, including high-speed rail and regional trains, however, mainly in the urban cities like New York. So we are the company of high-speed rail, but also we are the company like Metro. And we maintain very excellent customer service despite increased ridership. So today, this year, we celebrate the 30 years anniversary of since our privatization. We are privatized 1987, and since then, we have successfully increased our customers 70%. So that means today we are carrying 1.7 times as many as passengers than 30 years ago in terms of passengers kilometers. This time, passenger kilometers. So on the right-hand side, we increase, but also on the left-hand side, we decrease the congestion rate. And in order to do that, firstly, our solution to accommodate greater ridership, of course, and the secondary, smart operational management. Thirdly, improved communications. To make it much more practical, so you can see on the right-hand side, top, frequency. So for example, 2 minutes between trains, but these trains are carrying 3,000 or 4,000 people on the one single train. So in this case, this kind of a very huge number of people is carried. We still keep 2 minutes headway. And of course, in the middle, you can see safety. Safety is always our top management, top priority in the management. And we have invested 35 billion US dollars since our privatization, namely 30 years. And also, punctuality, you can see less than 1 minute delays, either for high-speed rail and also for conventional trains. And today people enjoy the Suica, our IC ticket. I can simply put this Apple Watch 2 to the gate. And the processing time is 0.2 seconds, very short time, 0.2 seconds for process the ticketing. And nextly, I'd like to talk about our philosophy. I really believe, because I have been working for 43 years continuously in the railroad industry, and I believe that excellent interfacing of many components is very important. And you can see many components, beginning with the signaling system, communication, the top, and the rolling stock, any other technologies. But however, I'd like to emphasize that integrating multiple fields of technology to create a seamless rail ecosystem, it is very important, I believe. And the next one, also increase capacity by 36% to meet growing ridership. Since our privatization, we always try to just improve a signaling system. And on the left-hand side, you can see 14% additional, peak hour capacity. This has been very possible by improving the signaling system. And in the middle, you can see rail car design. We just adapted a rather wider rolling stock, and this resulted in the 12% increase in the rider per car, customers in one car. And also, as for the fleet side, on the right-hand side, you can see a number of cars per train increased by 10%. So you can, multiply these three components. Then peak period congestion rate reduced by 41%, even though we could increase the number of customers. And the next one, also manage entire rolling stock life cycle, reduce cost, and improve quality. You can see the cycle. On the left top, beginning with the planning, and also to the right, concept design, manufacturing. We have two manufacturing factory inside our company, operation, maintenance, and research and development. So we can always circulate this cycle. So we have the total entire life cycle for rolling stock. And we can successfully feedback the experience of our operation and maintenance to the future design. Then annually, we introduce 400 to 500 new cars. Next one, signaling system with information communication technology, ICT, enhanced capacity and reliability as well. So we adapted autonomous decentralized system, so-called ADS. And one example is ATOS, ATOS in the urban Metro Greater Urban Transit System. And the ATOS system works very well to control the total train set, fleet of trains. And then middle, you can see wireless communication reduce volumes of equipment within a train control system. So today, we have already adopted as a, wireless, train control system. And we are going to soon introduce it to the urban cities. And it is called ATACS, ATACS, and it is corresponding to the ERTMS level 3. And on the right-hand side in the bottom, assurance technology enables renewal of our signaling system without service disruption. So we can have at the same time the existing signaling system and the next generation system. And the existing system always works while we construct a new system. We call it assurance technology. Also, solution provides broadband communications coverage on trains in stations. Shinkansen high-speed rail passengers can use their mobile in tunnels, even in the very long tunnels in the mountain. And also Narita Express connecting Narita Airport with the urban area. And today we increase free Wi-Fi in over 19 stations, and we increase more and more. Next one, leads innovation with its own substantial research and development center. So we, JR Group, 6th railway passenger company, born in 30 years ago, but we have one common research center. However, we are not satisfied with that, so we create our own research and development center. So today we have 2 R&D center. And these R&D focus safety, energy, information communication technology, ICT, and higher speed and capacity. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Mr. Tomioka, who will be speaking to us and using an interpreter. Thank you.
Yes. Thank you for your kind introduction. First of all, I wish to express my gratitude for inviting me to this conference. Today, I'll give a presentation on how we have advanced the development of technologies through the process of product customization in collaboration with our suppliers to accomplish our mission of a safe, punctual, and environmentally green mass transit system with high frequency. Like in New York City, the operational environment for Tokyo Metro is challenging with many stations in short distance and many curves. Diverse needs arise in accomplishing our daily mission of a safe and punctual mass transit system with high frequency. For this reason, we go beyond just procuring products, but instead collaborate with suppliers to customize product to the specification that suit our line characteristics. In addition, besides trouble of train operation, early signs of failure are fully investigated for frequent upgrades. These upgrades to existing rolling stock get reflected right away on the ongoing product customization for next generation of cars. We developed equipment technologies with individual equipment suppliers, which are then delivered to car body suppliers. This enables car body suppliers to fully understand the specification of Tokyo in maintaining a good partnership. Product customized may raise initial cost, but it's negligible. With rolling stock for more than 40 years, considering product reliability and the lifetime cost, it pays off. Diagram of train operation is our product, and keeping safety and punctuality is our service. Next on cars. We developed a steering bogie with a supplier to improve carving's performance. Given a great amount and high frequency of steering, evaluation was hashed out over around 7 years of development. As another example, we spent 5 years on the development of efficient and energy-saving PMSM, or permanent magnetic synchronous motor. Time is limited. Let me skip some slides. Please read. Now on our platform solution, installing platform doors on operation lines is somewhat difficult and inefficient. It requires a modification for doors of both car and platform. Refurbishing car is also necessary to introduce such facilitations as ATO, automatic train operation, to improve on stopping at proper positions. It is clear that platform doors bring enormous benefit to safety enhancement. Platform doors are an important element for organized platform management, together with deploying station staff and passenger good manners. We consider facility and non-mechanical measures are equally important to manage platforms. As I have explained, we have collaborated with suppliers in realize safe, punctual, and environmental green mass transit system with high frequency by advancing the development of technologies through product customization. We will continuously explore and develop technology suited for the diverse needs in our pursuit of higher pinnacle. Although my presentation today was on technology as an engineer by background, daily operations and quick response to incidents are most critical for safe, punctual, and reliable railway operations. I wish to talk with the opportunity to say that we are most proud of consider ourselves to have the teamwork, skills, and overall the dedication that are crucial in accomplish our mission. Thank you for your attention.
Thank you very much. Thank you. So now, finally, thank you. Thank you. Guido, the time is not on our side here, and I also want to be able to ask you guys a few questions. Go right ahead.
Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you very much for inviting me here to New York to speak about Zurich. Zurich is a pulsating global city in the center of Europe. You may also have heard that in the Mercer study, together with Vienna, Zurich has voted the most livable city in the world for more than a decade now. But most of you might not know that Zurich is on a global level a relatively small city. It has around 500,000 inhabitants and 1 million together with the agglomeration. Yes, that's correct. In the city of merely 500,000 inhabitants, we transport more than 1 million passengers every weekday on our tram and bus network alone. The passengers transported on the suburban train network are not even included in this figure. So, although Zurich is quite small when it comes to public transport, it seems that we are pursuing a good strategy. What leads me to this conclusion? First, about 60% of all trips in Zurich are made by public transport and only 40% by car. Thirdly, more than 70% of Zurich inhabitants have a public transport travel card. We thus have an enormous basis of regular customers, and they are not just customers, but mostly highly satisfied customers. In the Zurich region, public transport is regularly voted the most popular of all public services by its users. Another figure to underline this is that more than half of the city's households don't even have a private car. Public transport is not only popular in Zurich, but also all over Switzerland. The Swiss are world champions in train travel. They cover about 2,300 kilometers each by rail per year. What are the reasons behind the success? To me, the following factors play an important role. Accessibility. There is a tram or a bus stop within 300 meters of almost every household in town. Comfort. We work hard to keep our vehicles clean and to provide a more modern fleet as well as attractive and well-maintained stops. Frequency. Most of our line run every 7 to 8 minutes all day long. And punctuality, very important. 90% of our trams and buses are on time. meaning less than 2 minutes late. Let me address some of the challenges we are facing. The city of Zurich has been growing for years and even more so in the suburbs. Over the last 25 years, the number of passengers in the Zurich suburban train network has almost tripled. Today, our suburban train network transports around 450,000 commuters to and for the city center. This is a high number compared to the city's population of 500,000. We thus even also seen a growing demand in inner city network. This is a nice effect since we like to have more customers, but we are also starting to reach our system's capacity limit. And we feel that we need for expensive and demanding infrastructure projects. So in the remaining 2 minutes, I will try to tell you how we try to address these challenges and how we try to increase our performance. Most importantly, we talk about hardware. One of our main success factors is our long-term planning. We are planning ahead for the year 2040. And Andia already told it, you need to have time to make a new infrastructure. The planning is embedded in the city's development goals and has to go hand in hand with the transit-oriented city planning. The aim of the city is to increase public transport in a way that it can handle the whole transport growth in future. The city doesn't want any more cars in the city center. One outcome of this long-term planning are tram and bus line upgrades. They do not only result in a more and longer lines, but also in new and more direct connections. They also result in a further electrification of bus operations. Already today, more than 80% of our clients are already transported by electric trams or trolleybuses. And finally, they mean the renewal and extension of the background infrastructure such as workshops, depots, and the communication infrastructure. But hardware is not enough. We also need software. This starts with our own self-perception at VBZ. We have two slogans. First one is, where we go, Zurich comes alive. The other one is, our customers are our fans. To make our customers to fans, we must accomplish different goals. The typical Zurich approach is that we want to have separate lines for public transport, for buses and trams. We want the consequent right of way at signals at intersections, and an integrated traffic management center. Without this approach, we would never have reached our very high levels of punctuality and reliability. So to us, public transport priority is a key element to more convenience. We need very easily understandable and convenient information, as well as booking and ticketing systems. By the way, Switzerland has been a pioneer in introducing an integrated ticket system. Like this, our customer does not have to care whether he's on a train, on a bus, or on a boat. The motto is one ticket for everything for all over the country. Everybody speaks about sharing economy, but more important is sharing common values between customers, company, and its employees. We need to assure that our corporate values are well integrated into our corporate culture, and that all employees have our corporate values in their DNA. If values such as customer orientation, punctuality, a sense of efficiency, and so on are part of your corporate culture, shared by all the employees, the company will almost run itself. If not, a company will never be successful. As another part of the underlying software, we read stable and sufficient funding. Regular and sufficient maintenance and investments are key factors to success. The problem is that you can cut down on maintenance for some years and you don't even see the consequences thereof. It only gets really expensive later on. But the bigger issue is that traffic would break down if you had to perform maintenance works on the whole network at once. Even regular maintenance on a busy network is highly challenging and can lead to delays. The return on investment in public transport is a livable and sustainable city. Last but not least, we need a strong and stable political commitment to public transport. Luckily, Zurich has received the necessary funding in the municipal, regional parliaments, the government, and in many public votes. On long-term planning and infrastructure projects would be futile without a motivated workforce, strong political commitment, and adequate financial backing. And our customers would definitively not be our fans if we would fail in these points. In short, public transport will only be able to cope with the future challenges if we first and foremost think, of course, of the customer, but then about priority, capacity, and convenience. Thank you.
Thank you. We're going to wrap up in about 2 minutes, and then we're going to have a break and have some coffee, and then get into the Genius Challenge. But one of the things I'd like to ask real quickly, and if everybody could just, this is like a pop-off question more than anything else. One of the things that I've always been worried about is, the fact that we're open 24/7, 365. I know, Catherine, you mentioned that Paris Metro shuts down for 3.5 hours every night. Andy, if you could talk all the way around, how often do you close, and what are your regular hours?
Sure. So the TTC subway runs basically on a weekday between 6 a.m. until 1 a.m. So apart from regular maintenance in the window that we get, which is same as you in Paris, around about 3 hours, that is not sufficient to do the major upgrades that we're talking about. So every year, for the last couple of years, we've been taking around 35 closures, sometimes for a whole day, but quite often a 72-hour closure in a weekend. And again, that's not popular. I mean, you say New Yorkers are intolerant to such things. Torontonians aren't exactly, I'm not the flavor of the month with Torontonians either, but what you have to do is paint that picture. You're not going to be able to do this, and things won't get better unless you bite the bullet and give that possession over. So you have to find a way to buy yourselves more time. In one weekend closure, we can get the equivalent of 5 weeks worth of night work done. So that's the kind of thing I say to my customers. We do explainer videos on YouTube. We really make a point of painting a picture for this is what it could be like, but you've got to bear with us.
Catherine, you've already mentioned the 3.5 hours, so I appreciate.
So, well, just to for the line one, we never stopped the traffic. So it was only 13,500 nights of work in 4 years. But for example, for the commuter rail in Paris, 1.2 million passengers a day, we have to shut down the system to change the tracks during the August period. So
during the vacation, European vacation time.
The French vacations.
Yes, understood. Good.
Yes, it's the same in Zurich. We also, it's always the problem how to maintain your system. We also use weekends, or if for really big buildings, we use the summer holidays, because then we have much less customers on our network than on the other time of the year.
Understood. Mr. Ogata?
Yes, for the maintenance time, we have a very similar system to Paris, right? Of course, we need more, but around 3 hours in the midnight, after the final train finish and the morning train began. And this for high-speed train, 6 hours. So just the last train is around 24 in the midnight, and the morning fast train is 6 in the morning. So 6 hours for high-speed train, but urban transit is 3 hours. We need more. But anyway,
we need more. Yes, sir.
朝の5時から12時半まで運行してます。
We operate from 5 a.m. to 30 minutes past midnight at
ですから皆さんと同じで3時間ぐらいしかメンテナンス時間ありませんけ
So
ど。
we only have 3 hours of maintenance, as other operators have.
だけども架線ですとか軌道にはメンテナンスフリーのものをもともと入れてますので、列車は止めないでメンテナンスを十分しております。
But we have sufficient maintenance because we have, for the catenary as well as for the trackage, maintenance-free equipment pre-installed.
Thank you. Thank you. And later during the break, I want to hear about these 3 minutes after midnight. Why 3? Sorry. Thank you very, very much. We are, I believe there's going to be an announcement. We're going to have a break, have some coffee, and then we're all going to be back in the next 10 minutes or so. And then we're going into the actual Genius Challenge. Thank you.
Hello again. Thank you for continuing to join us at this conference. I hope that you're finding this morning as enjoyable and as exciting and as transformative as we are. I introduced the challenge and the 3 elements of the challenge, and now we're going to dig a little bit deeper. First, we're going to hear about signals, then we're going to hear about cars, and lastly, about our communications network. Thank you.
Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome the Chief Development Officer for the MTA, Jano Lieber.
Good morning. I am going to provide you with a little information relevant to the signals challenge that's been presented to all of you. As you've heard from the governor and other speakers, the goal of this entire undertaking is to quickly increase the capacity, reliability, and throughput of our subway system. And now I'm going to show you, in just a moment, I'll show you a video that talks a little bit about what we have now, but obviously signals are vital because they control train movement and determine how many trains can operate in the system at the same time. So here's a little video to talk about the system that we have right now.
The goal of the MTA Genius Transit Challenge is to increase the capacity of our subway system while also reducing breakdowns and delays. The capacity of our subway is largely regulated by our signals. Signals tell a train how close they can safely get to the train ahead of them. Today, nearly all of our subway lines are controlled by an older, fixed block signaling system. We've used fixed block signaling for the last 100 years. In fact, many of the signals within the system today date back to the 1930s. But fixed block signaling doesn't allow us to increase the capacity of our subway system. And because it's so old, its components are failing, leading to widespread delays almost daily. Fixed block signaling works like this. Rails are divided into blocks, and electronic sensors track trains that occupy those blocks to keep trains a safe distance apart. When a train is detected in any part of the block, that block is considered occupied. The signaling system keeps trains a safe distance by prohibiting movement to an occupied block behind the end of a train, known as a buffer block. This safe distance is enforced by stop arms, which activate train brakes if it tries to move into an occupied block or a buffer block. It's a very safe system, and it has served us well for more than 100 years. But there are limitations. First, the system does not provide precise train location or speed monitoring capabilities. Not knowing exactly where a train is means we can't safely operate them more closely together, so we can't increase the number of trains when we need to, like now, when we are experiencing record ridership. Secondly, the fixed block system is very complicated in terms of infrastructure. It takes a massive number of signals, cables, power, and other equipment to operate the system. Any of these can break down, and when a component fails, all signals affected by the component's failure turn red and stop train movement until the component can be repaired or replaced, causing delays for everyone. The subway needs modernized signaling that offers better reliability and the precision monitoring that would allow trains to travel together more closely and with continued high levels of safety. Being able to reduce the space between trains will allow us to add trains during peak demand, increasing passenger capacity and decreasing crowding. The infrastructure required for modern signaling is also much simpler. Less maintenance is required because there are fewer components. But the current situation mandates that we must move quickly. Our subways are at maximum capacity, and our outdated signal infrastructure cannot support our ridership, causing a cycle of breakdowns, repairs, delays, and frustration.
So clearly, replacing the MTA subway system signal system is a technological and logistical challenge. But you, the community of global innovators, have addressed challenges like this before. You took us from the gramophone to the iPhone, from the Model T to the Bugatti. And we're hoping that you can take us from a system that you just saw described in the video to something much, much better. For this exercise, we've established 7 objectives that must be met in order for us to have the kind of signaling system we all want. Let me go through them one by one. Train spacing, safety, compatibility, cost, reliability and resiliency, power and space constraints, and installation time. First, train spacing. You heard a little bit about that just now. The signaling technology, whatever we move towards, must minimize the space between trains, thus maximizing the number of trains the MTA can put on a track at once. The technology would detect other trains and maintain a safe separation and vary that distance based on the speed and position of each train. Second, safety. Needless to say, we need to comply with all the relevant federal regulations that govern signaling, especially computerized signaling systems, and those are codified at 49 Code of Federal Regulations for those of us who will have to dig into that regulatory system. More broadly, the signaling system that we move towards has to assist us in maintaining a safe speed and in automatically preventing overspeed. The technology also needs to communicate information about the train to the rail control center so that corrective maintenance can be scheduled. This is what we refer to as the check engine light feature of a proper signaling and train control system, so as to minimize on-track breakdowns and also to avoid delays. Third, compatibility. Maybe more than some of our other great world systems that you've heard about today, New York has a lot of lines that operate on different tracks. We have that flexibility to move from one track and one line to another in many, many places. So as to maximize the flexibility of our system, the new technology should allow different cars to use different lines and different tracks to the greatest extent possible. Fourth, cost. Cost is always a factor. The general statement is the cost to install a new technology for signals and to maintain that system, the maintenance is a feature of cost as well, of course, must be cost reasonable. As you've heard today from the governor and others, there's a commitment to invest substantially in the system, but obviously there's a great deal that needs to be done with our capital program so that the cost is always going to be a factor. Reliability and resiliency. The new signal system needs to be adaptable to new technology. We have to be able to upgrade the software while minimizing the need to change equipment constantly. And it also has to include redundancy measures that make sure the subway service can continue in the event of the failure of a single component. And of course, security. The system has to be designed to really high security standards that will detect, prevent, and report unauthorized access and unauthorized access attempts. Resiliency. This has to be a system that can prosper and function well in a New York environment, and that means enduring exposure to our weather, very high temperatures, very low temperatures, which are exacerbated in the tunnels, and prolonged exposure to our freeze and thaw cycle, moisture, rain, snow, salt, and all the other features of a New York operating environment.
Power and space constraints. This is very important. The technology has to be able to function within the available trackside space, including in tunnels and in the outdoor areas of our system. Here's a section of a typical cut and cover structure in the New York system. It's 210 square feet, but once you deduct for the area of the clearances necessary for the train to operate and to maintain personnel access in an operating environment, it's much, much less space. It's very, very tight. There you have the equivalent in a typical tube construction, even tighter. We need to address that with our new signal system. Power constraints. We need to upgrade the entire system's power infrastructure in order to allow us to operate more trains. It's fundamental. But the signaling system that we move towards needs itself to be as energy efficient as possible. Finally, installation time. That's been a topic of discussion throughout this morning, and needless to say, rapid, rapid, rapid. We can't wait any longer to grow our capacity and reliability and throughput, and the new system needs to be able to be installed in that kind of time frame. So you see the 7 objectives that we've set for the Signals Challenge, and that we hope that all the submissions we receive will address. But let me talk for a moment about what the MTA has been doing in the area of signals. In 1994, an MTA study concluded that communications-based train control, or CBTC, was the best available technology to modernize our signal system. And I think as many of you are aware, CBTC is a technology that uses a moving block system instead of a fixed block system, the current prevailing standard. CBTC relies on radio communications and a network of sensors and receivers to track the position of trains and also their speed, and therefore to allow them, as we said, to operate in closer proximity. So far, the MTA has installed CBTC on 2 subway lines, the Canarsie Line, or L, the number 7, or Flushing Line, and the Queens Boulevard Line, which accommodates the E&F trains, is under construction right now. Unfortunately, the current approach to deployment and installation of CBTC is just taking too long to meet our city's needs. And as the governor alluded to, the current plan, for a variety of reasons, is now scheduled to take 45 years to fully deploy throughout the entire system. That's just too long, and we need something much faster. Some of the constraints, however, that have impacted on deployment and the pace of installation are ones that I ought to share with you. For example, there are about 12,000 train control signals in the New York City system, over 15,000 track circuits, 2,600 plus switches, and 325,000 signal relays. That's a lot of equipment to address. In addition, we have 200 plus interlockings. That's the system that allows trains to move from one track to another. And those interlockings require 4 times as much signaling work than regular straight line track. And they also require very large rooms to store equipment. 24/7 operation has, as folks have talked about this morning, been a challenge to the improvement of the signaling system because, in effect, it's prioritizing continued operations over accelerated deployment of a new, more modern signaling system. And as we are deploying, we are still needing to maintain the existing, albeit antiquated, fixed block system, and that is taking time, it's using up time for our outages, and is also slowing deployment of a new system. So thinking about CBTC, although it has been deployed successfully, as I said, on a couple of lines and is moving forward on others, it is a system, a technology that was originally developed in the 1980s, and that's a long time ago from a technology standard. So we wanted to both acknowledge that the current state of affairs is not working, but, and here's the punchline, challenge you, all the smart folks in this room, to take one of 2 approaches, either to help us to identify a new technology that will meet all of the objectives we've laid out for this Signals Challenge, or to identify an alternative CBTC approach that can and will be more rapidly deployed. Throughout the audience today, there are people who are experts in signaling. They have red tags on them. They're a very handsome group, as you can see from their photos. And we hope that at the end of the event, if you're interested in talking more about signal specifics, you'll find them and engage with them. Thank you.
Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome the Director of the Office of Construction Oversight for the MTA, Michael Wetherell.
Good morning. I'm here to talk to you about the second phase of our challenge, and that is to subway cars. To increase the capacity and reliability of our subway system, our entire fleet of subway cars will need to be rapidly upgraded. Additionally, the new signal system we're anticipating would enable more trains to operate in the system at once, thus requiring us to augment the size of our subway fleet. Our challenge, simply stated, is to equip each car with a modern signaling technology and maintain a larger, more reliable fleet. So we've developed 5 objectives to address this challenge. The first one being rapid delivery time. Second, new signal system. Third, improved reliability. Fourth, enhanced rider experience. And fifth, cost reasonableness. Let's look at the first one, rapid delivery time. We need to rapidly upgrade our entire fleet of 6,418 subway cars. The MTA has 2 traditional methods: procuring new cars and refurbishing existing cars. As far as procuring new cars, manufacturers have told us, and our experience shows, that it takes 3 to 5 years to begin delivery of new cars. These and other factors limit our ability to quickly enhance our fleet with a new car fleet. We aim to improve this with your help, but we need to transform our fleet quickly. Refurbishment is the fastest strategy. Our fleet, as you can see, is comprised of 11 different models, and an upgrade assessment and solution needs to be developed for each of those fleets. Unless the MTA is able to procure new cars significantly faster, efforts for this challenge should prioritize car refurbishment. The next objective of this challenge I'd like to talk about is the new signal system. Our cars must be able to house the elements of a new signaling system, including radios, radio antennas, and computers, wiring, and transponder-related equipment inside and underneath the car. Now, obviously, much of our subway fleet was built before the idea of CBTC, and so we're going to also need for you to look at how we are going to be able to outfit our legacy fleet. Next, improved car reliability. Lower breakdown rates is critical to increasing our on-time performance. So let's talk about how we measure our performance. The first one is metrics. The metric used to indicate the performance of a subway car is mean distance between failure, or MDBF. The vehicle MDBF is calculated based on the number of failures of that vehicle type that cause an interruption of service during a given period of time, let's say a month, divided by the total number of miles traveled for that fleet during that same period of time. So if one fleet travels 500,000 miles during a month and has 2 service interruptions, their MDBF would be 250,000 miles, simple. An interruption of service is defined as any incident that causes a train to be 5 or more minutes late to its arriving terminal, or an incident that takes the train, prevents it from completing a scheduled run. Today, our MDBF is 20 times better than it was in the 1980s, but that's not good enough. In order for there to be an interruption of service, a critical function, a system of the car must be inoperative, requiring immediate corrective action, or for that train to be taken out of service. A look at this graphic can show the major systems that we have concerns with. The top 3 systems comprise more than 75% of our service interruptions, those being doors, 39%, air brake at 22%, or sorry, at 20%, and propulsion at 19%, and the remainder being 22%. In order to improve the overall train reliability as a part of the refurbishment process, we need to determine which components inside of these systems or whether the entire systems need to be upgraded. The systems most prone to failure, as I said, were doors, where they open and close 7 million times per day, air brake, propulsion, and rounding off the top 5 is HVAC and auxiliary power units. Many of these critical systems contain components whose reliability is impacted by the harsh environment or operations causing premature or unanticipated failures. We're looking for innovative ways to increase MDBF through the refurbishment process. Next, we're going to talk about enhanced rider experience. During the refurbishment, we're expecting that highly visible components of the cars may be replaced, including the floors, seats, and grab bars. And this is an artist's rendering of a new car, but it contains some of the things that we're talking about, and such as flip seats, step-aside areas next to doors or alcoves, strategic stanchion pole placement, improved grab bars, LED lighting, and Wi-Fi. Finally, cost reasonableness. The refurbishment process and component replacement must be cost reasonable, simply stated. So before I go, I'd like to talk to you about a few important notes on refurbishing our existing fleet of subway cars. First, the subway car structure must be tested to determine its long-term fitness for service. Assuming the results of this assessment are positive, a car can be refurbished to extend the life, improve reliability, and be retrofitted with the new signaling technology. Next, each of the fleets must be assessed to determine the level of refurbishment required to their individual components. Many of the older model cars are custom builds whose manufacturers may no longer exist, and in some cases, the component manufacturers no longer exist or they're not supported. Parts required for the refurbishment would need to become rapidly available to fit a surge of in-car refurbishments. Now, to perform the work, MTA has 13 maintenance facilities and 2 overhaul facilities within its network. In the past, we've shipped cars off-site to other refurbishment facilities as well. Here's a group of colleagues of mine who will be wearing blue name tags for your information after this presentation. Thank you.
Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome the Program Executive and Chief Engineer for the MTA, Mark Bienstock.
Good morning, everyone. Today I'm going to speak with you about our third challenge, communications. The new signaling system and its refurbished car fleet need to be supported by a state-of-the-art, reliable communications network. Trains need to communicate in order to know where they are so they can safely travel over the system. Trains also need to communicate both their location and status information to the rail control center so that necessary service adjustments can be made and issues addressed. This requires a system-wide, reliable data communications network. However, we do not have an accessible system-wide data communications network today. The existing 100-year-old fixed block signaling relies on antiquated circuits and logic. Fixed block relay-based signaling was developed over 180 years ago. It uses electrical circuits and relay-based logic to ensure the safe movement of trains, but it is not easily modified to add additional service or increase capacity. It also does not require a system-wide data communications network to operate. And while we do have fiber through the tunnels and Wi-Fi in stations, their capacity is limited to public safety and customer communications. We have an existing fiber optic-based communications network interconnecting all of our passenger stations and data centers, and local IP networks within our stations, supporting most of our customer-facing and operational systems. But the fiber optic cable installed along the tracks is not easily accessible, and there are few, if any, spare fibers available. We must build a new communications network throughout the subway system to support a new train control system and to increase capacity. And like our signals in cars, the communications network must be deployed in a rapid time frame. You heard it emphasized many, many times this morning. Time is of the essence. The technology will serve a dual purpose. It will enable data transfer for our new signaling. All modern train control systems rely on a communication system to enable both train-to-train and train-to-wayside communications. At the same time, people are becoming more reliant on their personal devices. So ideally, it also will support customer applications. The new communication network should allow our customers to remain connected, enable them to use their apps, and allow us to deliver real-time information throughout their journey. The challenge includes 5 objectives. First, support new signaling. Second, security and reliability. Third, cost reasonable. Fourth, rapid implementation. And fifth, customer applications. I will speak in more detail about each of these objectives. The network must support the new signaling system. While we do not yet know the new signal system, the communications technology must be capable of supporting a signaling system trackside, in subway cars, and at stations. The solution can be wireless or hardwired and should be able to transfer encrypted data at a high data rate. Ideally, a wireless solution would use licensed, dedicated FCC spectrum with no other interfering systems. And use of that spectrum should not require a rules change, which can significantly increase both cost and deployment time. The technology must work around solid walls, around curves and tunnels, and among oncoming trains. Solid walls separate tracks in many areas of our subway system, and the communications network must allow all trains to communicate on any track at all times. Tunnels and stations have both curves and changes in grade, which affect the transmission of wireless signals. And the steel body of train cars both reflect and attenuate wireless signals as trains travel along the tracks, pass each other, and pass wayside antenna systems. Additionally, tunnel space is limited to add cable, antennas, or other equipment. The Steinway tube shown here opened over 100 years ago and is still carrying trains under the East River. Clearance is very tight, with only a few inches to spare between the body of the train, the walls, and the ceiling. Any equipment installed along the walls or on the ceiling must be installed outside the clearance envelope of trains in order to avoid being struck. The network must be secure and reliable. Again, while we do not yet know the new signal system, your communications solution should be built with the highest security considerations, be engineered for zero downtime, and effectively manage interference in the subway environment. The solution should be designed and deployed utilizing the highest standards of network and data security. Equipment installed should be installed in vandal-proof secure enclosures to prevent unauthorized access. Redundant power, equipment, and data and communications paths should be implemented so that the system can operate or rapidly recover in the event of a component failure. And finally, the system must operate in our environment, where electromagnetic interference can be generated from many sources, including radios, lighting, and power systems. The system must be cost reasonable. Installation and maintenance of the communication system must be cost reasonable. Your solution should consider total life cycle costs. Maintenance of equipment should not require extensive track outages, which are very, very costly and significantly disrupt our customers' riding experience. The network should be rapidly implemented. Both deployment of the hardware throughout the tunnel and synchronization with the signaling technology must be completed in a rapid time frame. The communication system and the signaling system should be extensively tested in a laboratory environment and in the field prior to commissioning, and then both solutions, both systems, should be rapidly deployed. And finally, the system should support customer applications. Most newer modernized subway systems throughout the world provide customers with a connected experience throughout their entire journey, from airlines to bus systems to rail systems to transit systems. Customers have come to expect connectivity from origin to destination. We currently only have cellular and Wi-Fi connectivity in our underground stations, but not on the trains through the tunnels. This means that a cell phone call or a Wi-Fi session initiated in a station may become interrupted as the train exits the station and may need to be reinitiated or reestablished as the train enters the next station. We want to provide customers with a connected journey from their origin to their destination. It's both safe and convenient, and provides a better customer experience. Your new communication system should provide that connectivity. We are looking to you to help us deploy a new communication system, to support our new signaling system, to allow us to increase capacity and to provide additional connectivity for our customers. If you have any questions regarding communications, please look for any of these experts wearing green name tags following the program. Thank you.
Ladies and gentlemen, Ronnie Hakem.
Okay, I'm back. So, million-dollar ideas are all in this audience. And the question is, how do you get in it? So, we have 3 challenges. You know what they are. You've heard a lot about them this morning. There's additional information that we're putting out, some technical information that you can find at geniuschallenge.ny.gov. Check that out. I know you know the website because you've all registered to be here. We also will be taking questions during this application process through Genius Challenge info at mtahq.org. There's going to be 2 phases to this process. Phase 1, you submit an application that broadly describes your proposal. We have an evaluation committee that is then going to review everything submitted and will be scoring those initial proposals in order to see who advances to phase 2. The final round will be this fall. Your application will now need to provide more technical details with more specificity about what you're suggesting and proposing. So our evaluation committee can then score the proposals again and will recommend winners in each one of the 3 categories. The state, and the governor said it, is providing an award of $1 million for the best ideas in each of these 3 categories. And the MTA will then receive those proposals and will be looking for contracting opportunities based on the winning ideas. So here's our timeline. It's going to move fast. Mid-July, applications are open. Mid-August, first phase applications are due. Finalists will be announced. And then this fall, we'll have that final round. We have an expert panel judging these applications They're experts and senior executives in technology and academia, manufacturing, business, transportation, and in addition, some of us that you've heard here today will also be participating in that expert panel. So, the MTA Genius Transit Challenge. We really look forward to hearing from you and seeing your ideas and receiving those $1 million winning proposals. Thank you.
Ladies and gentlemen, please now turn your attention to a video about one of the most critical infrastructure projects in the United States, the Gateway Program.
Another critical infrastructure challenge in our region is jeopardizing the economy of the entire Northeast and the nation, thanks to years of inaction. Challenges below the surface of the Hudson River could put us in danger, cost us time and frustration, and significantly impact our future. The 2 Hudson River tunnels, which carry all Amtrak intercity rail traffic serving the Northeast Corridor, as well as 100,000 commuters each day, are crumbling. They need not only to be repaired, but to be expanded to accommodate the region's growth. The tunnels have reached capacity and are rapidly deteriorating, making it imperative that we find a solution before they fail completely. And that is where the Gateway Project comes in. We need to build new tunnels, not only to allow us to repair the existing tunnels, but to add 2 new ones to meet the demands of increased commuter and Northeast Corridor traffic. Accommodating this increased demand will also require additional tracks. It's an issue with an impact reaching much farther than just New York and New Jersey. In fact, the tunnels are part of the nation's busiest passenger rail corridor. It serves nearly 1 million passengers each day across 8 states and Washington, D.C. The existing tunnels are on track to fail, and if they do, the nation's largest regional economy is at stake. Today, what is required is rapid progress that brings together the federal government and the Port Authority of New York and New Jersey to move the Gateway Project forward quickly. The existing tunnels are more than 100 years old and are in desperate need of a complete repair. The problems were made even worse by Hurricane Sandy, which flooded the tunnels with salt water that is still doing damage today. The age and deterioration of the tunnels are exacerbated by the fact that there are more passengers using them today than were ever dreamed of when they were built. It's more important than ever that we rebuild with future growth in mind and increase capacity to meet the needs of more passengers using the lifeblood of the corridor. The fact that it is a crossroads for the Northeast means there is a dire need to make sure the route is resilient, that service is not disrupted, and that it is rebuilt to last for future generations. But how we go about repairing the failing tunnels is just as important as making it happen, without catastrophic reductions in service and with our future needs at the forefront of our vision. If just 1 tube of the existing tunnel were to fail, it would cause a 75% decrease in train traffic, cutting the number of trains during rush hour from 24 to just 6. With the number of intercity Northeast Corridor passengers and commuters growing each day, there is no time to waste. The Gateway Project is ready to begin now, and here's why. Local partners are ready to provide local funding. They'll be secured in 2 years or less. Funding and financing plans include access to low-cost federal financing programs. Private sector expertise and funding will be used. The Gateway Project offers economic and environmental benefits for the region and for the nation. We must move forward on the Gateway Project now on an urgent basis to avoid potentially catastrophic failure and to accommodate growth that is key to the Northeast and to the national economy. The time is now to take the most important step in history towards preserving our infrastructure and the nation's economy for today and for tomorrow.
Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome the Executive Director of the Port Authority of New York and New Jersey, Pat Foy.
Thanks. I'm going to change geography on you a little bit. Governor Cuomo started the morning by talking about New York City, subways and buses, Long Island Railroad to the east, Metro North to the north. I'm now going to take you west to the Hudson River and New Jersey and points west and south. I'll note to begin that partners in Gateway are Amtrak, New Jersey Transit, and my colleagues at the Port Authority. Before I briefly explain the Gateway program, allow me 3 points. First, Gateway is a project of national significance. Second, failure of the 110-year-old tunnel before completion of the new tunnel, which is at the heart of the Gateway project, would result in national economic, transportation, and environmental calamity. Third, Gateway satisfies the requirements of the new administration, including pursuing private capital and private innovation. I'll check each of them off in a moment. Welcome to the Gateway project. From the west on the left of the screen to the east on the right, Gateway moves from Newark Penn Station, crossing 4 bridges, one of which I'll talk about in a moment. They're all old. Continuing on the Hudson in a 106-year-old tunnel directly to Penn Station. 800,000 riders on 2,000 trains travel along the Northeast Corridor every weekday, making it the most heavily traveled passenger rail line in the United States. And that includes 200,000 New Jersey Transit and Amtrak commuters each workday. The Gateway program addresses long-deferred state of good repair while delivering an increase of capacity in trans-Hudson commuting in the future. Projected increases in ridership go from 260 million in 2009 to fully 520 million in 2040. The Gateway program is comprised of 8 components, which address single points of failure supporting well over 10% of the nation's GDP. In other words, trillions of dollars. To handle the project, an entity called the Gateway Program Development Corporation, in partnership with Amtrak and New Jersey Transit, and with the strong and enthusiastic support of Governor Cuomo and Governor Christie, was created last year. I'll note the Gateway Board also includes a representative of the U.S. Secretary of Transportation. The first part of the Gateway project I want to talk about is the Portal Bridge. The Portal Bridge is fully designed, it's fully permitted, it has a record of decision, so it's gone through the environmental process, and has substantial New Jersey Transit and Port Authority financial support. The Portal Bridge itself is 106 years old. You see a common theme here this morning of 100-year-old infrastructure. It's a swing bridge, and too often it doesn't swing back into alignment. New Jersey Transit, with Amtrak support, will build the Portal Bridge, significantly increasing reliability and throughput throughout the entire Northeast Corridor. The second critical component of the Gateway program is the Hudson River Tunnel project, connecting in New York and New Jersey. The existing tunnel is 106 years old, was built by the Pennsylvania Railroad. And as Governor Cuomo mentioned this morning, Superstorm Sandy, which inundated a lot of MTA infrastructure, also did the same thing with respect to the existing Hudson River Tunnel, inundating it with salt water in October of 2012. The Hudson Tunnel project will fully rehabilitate that existing tunnel, both existing tubes, but that alone cannot meet the rising demand that I just described, 260 million going to 520. A new tunnel will provide additional capacity for trans-Hudson commuting once the existing Hudson River Tunnel owned by Amtrak is rehabbed. The new Hudson Tunnel will connect to the Northeast Corridor in New Jersey and bring riders into the heart of our system, Penn Station and Moynihan Station. At Penn Station, Amtrak and New Jersey passengers can connect with 6 MTA subway lines and many buses and reach any point in New York City. The aggregate number of passengers, including New Jersey Transit and Amtrak commuters going through Penn Station a day, is approximately 600,000. As you saw a minute ago in the video, building this component of the Gateway program is essential to maintaining the vitality of our region's economy and would have a significant impact on the national economy. As I mentioned at the outset, a tunnel failure before the new tunnel was built would create a national economic calamity. On the Hudson River Tunnel, there are significant local commitments. The Port Authority Capital Plan, approved unanimously in February of this year, includes the payment by the Port Authority over a period of years of debt service on $2.7 billion of low-cost US DOT debt, including $2.4 billion allocated to the tunnel. The financing plan is well along in development, is being discussed with our partners and with US DOT. And we're accessing self-help. We intend and are enthusiastic and optimistic about accessing private capital. And as I'll explain in a minute, also need a significant amount of federal grant and loan dollars. In its $1 trillion infrastructure plan, the new federal administration is calling for important infrastructure projects that are supported in part by private capital and are already underway. Gateway fits both of those bills. The Gateway program is the best candidate for the federal administration's infrastructure plan. Here are the administration's infrastructure priorities, and we'll check them off. First is self-help. Local partners are maintaining momentum on the project and advancing phase 1 projects, the Portal Bridge and the tunnel, including by providing significant funding commitments. Local funding from New Jersey Transit and the Port Authority Board, as I mentioned, the $2.7 billion debt service commitment approved earlier this year, will result in the project being able to access low-cost debt from DOT through the TIFIA and RIF programs. Self-help? Check. Second is permitting reform. One of the things that we're proud about, and we've internalized Governor Cuomo's message of doing things faster and quicker and smarter. The Hudson Tunnels project's environmental review and permitting process will be complete in 2 years or less, thanks to extraordinary support from our partners and stakeholders, including US DOT staff. Permitting reform? Check. Lending reform is another of the administration's priorities. The funding and financing plans for Gateway's phase 1 projects include access to low-cost federal infrastructure loan programs, TIFIA and RIF. Those programs are perfectly suited to a large, nationally critical project such as Gateway. Lending, check. Private capital. The Gateway program's partners welcome the best of private sector capital and expertise and innovation to help deliver this project better and faster, and we intend to seek private capital for a portion of the funds. Gateway is perfectly positioned to access private capital and take advantage of private sector expertise. Private capital, check. Federal infrastructure funding. Nationally significant projects like Gateway are beyond the financial ability of any local partners, including those in New York and New Jersey, to go it alone. And federal grants and loan dollars are critical. Private capital could be, and it likely will be, a significant part of the funding, but it's critical that the federal government, as it has with respect to the ARC project that was canceled, but with respect to large infrastructure projects across the country, across decades, has provided substantial federal loan and grant dollars. We need the same here. Check. Lastly, a transformative project. That's an important requirement of the administration. The Gateway program offers compelling social, transportation, economic, and environmental benefits for the region and the nation. Protecting and growing $2 trillion of GDP and protecting hundreds of thousands of jobs and growing those jobs is transformative. Transformative, check. Later this summer, the Gateway partners are hosting the Gateway Program Industry Event to solicit innovation from the private sector in tunneling, engineering, procurement, P3s, risk transfer. We're reaching out to established firms, and we're also reaching out to disruptors, as the MTA is doing here. Stay tuned for more details on the Gateway Industry Program. And today, we're announcing an important next step in the Gateway program. The draft EIS is complete, drafting's been complete, and is expected to be released next month with a combined final environmental impact statement record of decision, that's the federal governmental action that's required, expected in 2 years or less. Importantly, that compares to 6 years for the canceled ARC projects, and sadly up to 10 years on some other project. The fact that the draft EIS is completed and will be released next month is an important milestone. The speed at which we're moving forward is unprecedented by modern standards, and I believe we can continue to do better both on Gateway and other projects. And the fact that we'll have completed the entire project in less 24 months is extraordinary. Saves time, saves money, and also significantly reduces the risk of failure, reduces the time at which the region and the nation are exposed to failure. The New York and New Jersey congressional delegations have been tremendously supportive of the program, but we need more federal support in loans and grant dollars to deliver the program. In particular, I note the support of Senator Schumer and Gillibrand, Senators Booker and Menendez for their steadfast support. This spring, U.S. Transportation Secretary Elaine Chao said, quote, "Please be assured that Gateway is an absolute priority." Given that statement, there's no need for editorializing from me. The Secretary's statement speaks for itself. It's important that the federal government deliver on that promise. Before we move to our genius panelists, I want to conclude by noting Again, Gateway is a project of national significance first. Second, failure of the existing 110-year-old tunnel before completion of the new tunnel would cause economic, transportation, and environmental calamity. The reason I mention environmental calamity is what would happen is thousands and tens of thousands of people, commuters, would be forced from rail transit, which is environmentally friendly, and have to be put in cars and buses commuting on already crowded bridges and tunnels. That'd be a disaster. And then thirdly, Gateway importantly satisfies the requirements of the new administration, including pursuing private capital and innovation. And now on to our panel of experts. So let me start by introducing them. To my left is Kathy Wild, who's the president and CEO of the Partnership for New York City. To her left is Stephen Gardner, who's an executive vice president of Amtrak, responsible for many things at the corporate level, including the Gateway project. And to my right is Tom Wright, who's the president and CEO of the Regional Plan Association, which is the leading transportation policy organization, think tank, organization of activity, not only in the region, but across the country. So I'm going to start with Kathy. Kathy, you're the leader of the most important business organization in New York City and one of the most important in the nation. What does the Gateway program mean for employers and investors in New York City, the region, and beyond?
Well, New York's metropolitan regional economy is the largest urban regional economy in the world at 1.3 trillion in economic output. And most of the employers in this region have employees, have operations, and have customers on both sides of the Hudson River. So to start with, just the operation of our regional economy is absolutely dependent on those tunnels and that access, as is the national economy, because we are, in fact, the engine of the national economy as well. So you mentioned that this is a project of national significance. It truly, truly is.
Thanks. Kathy, a follow-up. What's your view? Many of your members are investment firms, Wall Street firms. What is your view on the likelihood of sophisticated firms like that offering private capital for a project like Gateway?
Well, I think the models that you've done such a good job with creating at LaGuardia Airport, at the Goethals Bridge, show that we can get private sector engagement and leadership in development and financing of these projects. Absolutely, with what's going on in terms of conversations at the federal level, the progress we've made in New York State on design-build projects, I think there's a great opportunity for private investment to be a significant part of this project.
Great. Thanks, Kathy. Stephen, as Executive Vice President of Planning, Technology, and Public Affairs at Amtrak and as the leader of the Gateway program at Amtrak, how important is the Gateway program to the transportation mission of Amtrak and your sister agency, New Jersey Transit?
Thank you, Pat. It's not really an overstatement to say that it is absolutely fundamental to the ongoing operation of Amtrak's system. 2 out of every 3 trips on the Northeast Corridor, the nation's and really North America's main line for passenger railroading, begin or end at Penn Station. It's the nation's busiest train station, the nation's busiest transportation facility. And that facility is entirely dependent on 4 tunnels, 2 of which, known as the North River tubes, go underneath the Hudson River, and 4 of which go under the East River. And there's 450 daily trains that traverse those tunnels, 24 an hour in the peak in each direction, and you've seen what we face here. We need to rehabilitate these tunnels. That is not a suggestion, it's not an option, it is in fact an absolute requirement that it be done. And the only way to do the tunnel rehabilitation is to close the tunnels for a period of somewhere between 18 months and 2 years a tube. If we have to do that before we have created essentially replacement capacity, then we will achieve essentially this incredible reduction in rail capacity, essentially effectively decimating the ability to traverse the river by rail. So this phase 1 of the Gateway program is fundamental to simply preserving the capacity we have today, to providing the connectivity that the region and in fact the entire Eastern Seaboard and therefore the nation relies on.
Great. Do you want to talk, Stephen, also about the increase in capacity that will be realized as the Gateway program proceeds?
Sure. The Gateway program is, as you laid out, Pat, it's really a program of projects between Newark and Penn Station. And fundamentally what it does is take a railroad that is today essentially 2 tracks leading to these 2 tunnels under the river and expands that to be a 4-track system, and then creates the needed capacity at Penn Station over time to handle increased traffic. But in essence, we'll be able to double the train volume into Penn Station. We have to similarly expand tracks and platforms at Penn to receive those trains. Today, Penn Station is completely full. There's no additional capacity. But this fundamentally will permit a doubling of service, a very, very significant increase for New Jersey Transit, which today operates 20 of those 24 trains an hour under the river. Without it, we've essentially closed the door on any rail growth for both New Jersey Transit and Amtrak, but also the Long Island Railroad into Penn Station, because they have no track space and no platform space to expand at Penn.
Thanks, Stephen. Tom, you run the preeminent transportation policy organization in the region. Would you do 2 things: describe the growth in Trans-Hudson commuting over the last 20 or 30 years, and then offer your perspective on the importance of this project from a transportation point of view?
Sure. Thank you, Pat, very much, and especially for your kind of laying out the issues. You know, as a kid growing up in New York in the last generation, New York City's job growth was fairly flat for a long period of time. From 1970 to 2000, roughly, for every 10 jobs created in the tri-state metropolitan region, about 1 of them was in New York City, and 9 of them were outside the city. Northern New Jersey, Westchester, Fairfield County, that's where the jobs were. That trend over the last 10, 15 years has completely not just turned around, but reversed. Today, New York City is the great job creator, the magnet. Over the last 6 years, some 600,000 jobs, almost 100,000 a year, have been created in the 5 boroughs of New York City, Brooklyn and Queens, and we're building things like the wonderful Hudson Yards on the west side and other areas. As anyone who's tried to buy or rent an apartment in New York knows, in the last couple of years, not everybody who can work in those jobs can live in New York City. And New York's success depends on the commuter shed, that broad metropolitan area and the people who can get into it. And many of them, for the last generation, the largest percentage of new commuters coming into New York City, about 10% of the job growth these days, comes from west of the Hudson River. But really, if you live outside New York City, outside the 5 boroughs, any part of this region, the most important, the fastest growing, the best paying jobs, the greatest industry in your community is probably called commuting to New York City. And that industry is threatened, all parts of it, because of the regional network, by the tenuous nature of these railroad tracks.
Great, thanks. So punctuating Tom's point and summing up, I'll note the following. Tom made the point about growth in New York City employment. Just this morning, a couple of hours ago, Governor Cuomo announced extraordinary news that the Aetna Insurance Company is moving its headquarters from Connecticut to New York City, actually to Chelsea. That's extraordinary in terms of direct and indirect employment, and it's that kind of continued growth that makes this project even more compelling. Summing up, I'll note again, this is really a national priority, 1. 2, if the existing tunnels were to fail before the new ones are built, the economic, transportation, and environmental consequences would be a calamity. And thirdly, we've been very mindful of the new administration's priorities from an infrastructure point of view, and as I suggested a couple of minutes ago, I think we've checked them all. Thanks for your attention.
Thank you.
Good. Good, thank you. Thanks. Thanks. Thank you, Kathy.
I've been told there's somewhere between 700 and 800 of you out here, so I want to thank all of you for coming. It's really heartwarming for me to understand how many people care about the MTA, and it's a wonderful thing that we're going to be able to do to make big changes to it. As you all have seen, the challenges ahead are extraordinary. Today, you're going to have an opportunity to have an impact on, well, I was going to say the oldest, but I found out Paris is 4 years older. I didn't know that. But the oldest transit system in the world. And together, look, we can find a way to transform the MTA into the 21st century. So the next part of the program is that you'll find experts in the audience with name tags relevant to the challenge areas. These MTA experts are going to stay behind as long as necessary and be able to answer questions. For those who want to respond to the signals challenge, our experts have red name tags. For those who are going to participate in the car challenge, they're going to have blue name tags. And for communication, the color is going to be green. I encourage all of you to seek them out, speak to them, get their cards, give them your cards as well, and we're looking forward to the bold ideas that come up over the next coming weeks. And with that, thank you very much, and we appreciate it, and we'll look forward to all of your responses. Thank you.